At 81, I discovered a secret that completely transformed my life, one that most people my age are too afraid to admit they want. Before I share this revelation, let me ask you, have you ever wondered why some seniors thrive independently well into their 80s, while others decline rapidly? I spent decades believing independence in our golden years came down to genetics or financial planning, but after my husband of 53 years passed away, I stumbled upon something far more powerful, something that gave me more energy, purpose, and joy than I'd felt in decades. If you're over 60 or love someone who is, this video could completely change how you approach aging. But before we jump back into the video, let us know where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something really special for you. And now back to the video. I'll share the unconventional secret that helped me reclaim my independence when everyone expected me to surrender. When my husband died 3 years ago, my children immediately started talking about next steps. They meant well, visiting senior living communities, hiring home health aides, and suggesting I downsize. According to them, my independent days were numbered. At 78, I was expected to start the slow surrender to aging. For months, I went along. With it, I toured those pristine facilities with their bingo nights and supervised walks. I nodded as they explained how this is what people your age need. But deep inside, I felt a rebellion brewing. Was this really all that was left? Trading independence for safety? Passion for predictability? What society doesn't tell you about aging is how quickly the world tries to shrink your life once you reach a certain number. They disguise it as care, as concern, but underneath there's an assumption that independence and aging can't coexist. Then something unexpected happened. I met James, a 64-year-old retired professor at my community center's art class. 17 years younger than me, he saw me not as an elderly woman needing protection, but as a person with dreams, desires, and yes, a future worth getting excited about. Our friendship evolved into something more, and suddenly I found myself making plans again. Not just doctor's appointments or family visits, but adventures, projects, and experiences that lit me up from the inside. In this video, I'll reveal how finding unexpected passion completely rewired my approach to aging and independence, and why this secret is kept from most seniors who need it most. Stay with me until the end, because I'll share exactly how this unconventional relationship transformed not just my emotional health, but my physical independence too. The data on this is shocking. Studies show that seniors with this one element in their lives live an average of 7.5 years longer and maintain independence for 5+ years longer than those without it. I'll also address the uncomfortable reactions from my family and community and how I navigated them to protect my newfound joy. If you're wondering how to support a parent or loved one in maintaining their independence or claim it for yourself, the 6th point might completely change your approach. By the end of this video, you'll understand why passion, not just health, regimens or financial planning, might be the missing element in your blueprint for an independent senior life. The most shocking discovery of my late life was this: independence doesn't create passion. Passion creates independence. When I first met James, I could barely walk to the mailbox without getting winded. My doctor had prescribed physical therapy, and my children had hired a weekly house cleaner because they worried about me maintaining my home. On paper, my independence was slipping away, one assistance service at a time. 3 months into knowing James, we made plans to visit the Coastal Art Gallery 2 hours away. It was a place I'd always wanted to see, but never had the courage to venture to alone. "I'll drive," he said simply, without the hesitation my children would have shown, without questioning if I could handle the trip. The night before our outing, something extraordinary happened. I found myself doing gentle stretches before bed, not because a doctor prescribed them, but because I wanted to be comfortable during our long drive. I set my alarm early, so I'd have time to prepare without rushing. I laid out my clothes, packed a small bag of essentials. When was the last time I had actively prepared my body and mind for an experience I was genuinely excited about? I realized with startling clarity that I'd stopped physically caring for myself because I'd stopped having compelling reasons to do so. "What do you think of this one?" James asked at the gallery, standing before a vibrant abstract painting I found. myself moving closer to see the details, bending slightly, turning to see it from different angles, movements I would have avoided for fear of losing balance just months before. That evening, reflecting on our day, I understood something crucial. The body follows where the heart leads. My increasing physical limitations hadn't caused my diminishing independence. It was the other way around. Without passion, purpose, or joy pulling me forward, my body had simply followed my spirit into decline. Ask yourself, what genuinely excites you enough to make you want to stretch a little further, walk a little longer, or try something that challenges you? Without that spark, all the physical therapy in the world won't maintain your independence. The second revelation came when I brought James to my neighborhood's community dinner. At 81 and 64, our age difference was visible, though not as dramatic as some assumed. The reactions were immediate and telling. "Is this your nephew?" asked Margaret, my 79-year-old neighbor, her eyes narrowing with suspicion when I explained. Wasn't. Another couple, both in their 70s, kept giving us sidelong glances throughout the evening. My friend Eleanor, however, pulled me aside with unexpected excitement. "Good for you," she whispered. "I'm so tired of only talking to people who remember the Great Depression." What struck me that evening was how thoroughly we segregate ourselves by age, especially as seniors. We create communities, activities, and social circles exclusively with age peers. We discuss the same health concerns, share the same historical references, and reinforce the same limitations. We call it comfort. In reality, it's stagnation. James brought perspectives into my life that challenged me. He introduced me to music I'd never heard, viewpoints that differed from my long-held beliefs, and technologies I'd dismissed as not for people my age. Most importantly, he moved at a different pace. Not rushing me, but not accommodating unnecessary slowness either. "You don't need to take the elevator for just one floor," he mentioned casually one day at the library. "The stairs are right here." Had anyone my age suggested this, I might have been offended. From him, it felt like an invitation rather than a criticism. Within weeks of expanding my social circle to include younger friends, I noticed something remarkable. I stopped beginning every conversation with health complaints. I found myself discussing books, current events, and future plans instead of medication schedules and doctor visits. Research supports what I experienced. Age-diverse social circles correlate strongly with cognitive flexibility and slower physical decline in seniors. Yet senior living communities, well-intentioned families, and even our own comfort zones push us towards age segregation precisely when we need diversity most. Consider this. How many meaningful relationships do you have with people at least 10 years younger than you? If the answer is few or none, you're missing a critical ingredient for maintaining independence. "You've earned your rest," my son would tell me. "Let us handle that." These statements came from love, but they carried a dangerous assumption that what seniors need most is to be unburdened from purpose. In reality, the opposite is true. When James and I had been dating for about 6 months, he mentioned his volunteer work teaching art to children with learning disabilities. "They need extra volunteers next month," he said. "You have a teaching background, don't you?" My immediate reaction was hesitation. I hadn't worked with children in over 20 years. My arthritis made holding pencils for long periods uncomfortable. What if I couldn't keep up? But the seed was planted. A week later, I found myself in a classroom with 5 children, ages 8 to 12, helping them create self-portraits. By the end of the 2-hour session, my back ached and my hands were stiff. But I felt more alive than I had in years. "Will you come back next week, Miss Catherine?" asked Lizzie, a 9-year-old with dyslexia, who had created a stunning portrait using only geometric shapes. I did go back, every Tuesday for the past 2 years. I adapted techniques to work around my physical limitations. I learned to sit when needed, and developed art exercises that required less fine motor control. Most importantly, I once again experienced the irreplaceable satisfaction of being genuinely needed. The research on this is unequivocal. Seniors with regular volunteer commitments show significantly slower rates of physical decline than their peers, who focus solely on leisure. The cognitive demands, social connection, and physical activity involved in maintaining commitments create a powerful cocktail for preserving independence. Yet well-meaning family members often discourage seniors from taking on responsibilities. "Don't stress yourself," they say. "You should be relaxing." What they don't realize is that without purposeful stress, the good kind that comes from being meaningfully engaged, our bodies and minds atrophy. Your assignment: identify one way you can contribute your wisdom and experience regularly to something larger than yourself. Not as a one-time event, but as an ongoing commitment that requires you to show up, physically and mentally. Ask yourself, who is counting on me to show up next? Tuesday? If the answer is no one, your independence is already at risk. Let me address the elephant in the room. Yes, my relationship with James includes physical intimacy. This aspect of our relationship was initially the most uncomfortable for me to acknowledge publicly, and the most difficult for others to accept at your age. My oldest friend asked with undisguised shock when I hinted at this dimension of our relationship. This reaction reveals our culture's deeply harmful assumption that romantic and physical desire should naturally disappear with age. We're expected to transition from being lovers to simply being companions and eventually to being patients. What no doctor told me, what no senior wellness program mentioned, was how profoundly romantic connection influences physical health. 6 months into my relationship with James, my doctor was baffled by improvements in my cardiovascular health, reduced inflammation markers, and increased energy levels. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," he said, reviewing my improved test results. The science behind this is compelling. Physical intimacy releases oxytocin, which reduces inflammation, a key factor in age-related decline. It improves sleep quality, reduces stress hormones, and even boosts immune function. One study found that seniors in romantic relationships required 50% fewer doctor visits than their unpartnered peers. But even beyond the measurable physical benefits, there's something transformative about still being seen as desirable other than just dependent. When James looks at me with admiration, I naturally stand taller. I take more care with my appearance. I move with more confidence. I began taking better care of my body, not because of fear of decline, but because I experienced joy in living in. This shift wasn't dependent on finding a younger partner specifically. That was just my path. What matters is refusing to accept the narrative that romance and physical desire should be surrendered with age. For some of my friends, this meant rekindling intimacy in long-term marriages. For others, it meant dating again after loss or divorce. The common factor wasn't the specific relationship, but the courage to still see themselves as fully alive, fully desirable humans, rather than just seniors to be cared for. Ask yourself honestly, have you mentally resigned from this aspect of life? If so, you've removed one of the most powerful motivators for maintaining physical health and independence. When my relationship with James became serious, my eldest son scheduled a meeting with my financial advisor. "We need to protect Mom's assets," he said, not realizing I could hear him from the hallway. "She's not thinking clearly about this relationship." This well-intentioned intervention revealed another painful truth. As we age, our financial independence becomes increasingly linked to our willingness to defend our own decisions. The narrative around seniors and money is heavily skewed toward protection rather than agency. Financial exploitation of seniors is real, but the fear of it often leads to excessive control that undermines the very independence it claims to protect. In my case, I had to firmly establish boundaries. I maintained complete financial separation from James while asserting my right to spend my money as I chose, whether on travel experiences or gifts. This middle path preserved both protection and agency. What I discovered was how rapidly seniors can lose financial independence, not through cognitive decline, but through learned passivity. Each time we defer financial decisions to adult children, each time we allow our spending to be monitored or questioned beyond reasonable safeguards, we surrender a piece of our autonomy. Studies show that seniors who maintain direct control of their day-to-day finances, even when accepting help with complex matters like taxes or investments, show better cognitive function over time than those who surrender financial agency entirely. More surprisingly, financial confidence correlates strongly with physical independence. Seniors who make their own spending decisions are significantly more likely to live independently for longer, likely because the cognitive exercise of financial management maintains the decision-making skills needed for independent living. James. never asked me for money, but my family's assumption that he would force me to articulate my financial boundaries clearly to everyone. This clarity ultimately strengthened all my relationships and reinforced my own confidence in managing my affairs. The lesson is clear: protecting your financial independence requires courage. The courage to establish clear boundaries, to continue making appropriate financial decisions despite others' doubts, and sometimes to defend relationships that others question. Ask yourself, are you gradually surrendering financial decisions to others out of convenience rather than necessity? If so, you're likely accelerating your journey toward overall dependence. The hardest truth I discovered was this: maintaining my independence meant sometimes disappointing the people who loved me most, my children. 6 months after meeting James, he invited me to join him for a 3-week trip to Portugal. My children were horrified. "Mom, you can't travel that far at your age," my daughter insisted. "What if something happens? What if you fall? What if you need medical care?" Their concerns weren't irrational. At 81, international travel carried risks, but their solution, avoiding the journey entirely, carried a different, less visible risk. The slow surrender of my courage, my autonomy, and ultimately my ability to navigate the world confidently. With my doctor's qualified approval and careful preparation, I went to Portugal. I used a wheelchair in the airport, took travel insurance, and carried necessary medications. I also experienced one of the most joyful 3 weeks of my life. My children's disappointment and worry were painful. Their texts checking on me daily came from love, but also conveyed their lack of faith in my judgment. I had to accept that my choices would sometimes create this tension, and that absorbing their worry was the price of maintaining my independence. This pattern repeated with other decisions. My choice to continue driving with regular skills assessments, my decision to remain in my 2-story home rather than downsizing to a 1-level condo, my preference for managing my own medication rather than using one of the service apps they recommended. In each case, I learned that independence requires the emotional fortitude to sometimes disappoint people who genuinely want the best for you, but who define best differently than you do. The research supports this difficult balance. Seniors who maintain decision-making authority, even when those decisions create modest, manageable risks, show significantly better outcomes in maintaining independence than those who defer to even the most loving family members' risk assessments. The most difficult skill I developed wasn't physical but emotional. The ability to say, "I understand your concern and I love you for it. This matters to me and I've decided to do it anyway." Ask yourself, how often do you surrender your preferences to avoid worrying your loved ones? While compromise is necessary, consistent deference accelerates dependence. Looking back on the 3 years since I met James, I realized that what he gave me wasn't youth, romance, or even companionship, though those were wonderful gifts. What he truly offered was permission to keep living fully when the world expected me to begin dying slowly. The secret to staying independent isn't found in specialized diets, exercise regimens, or even financial planning, though all these help. The true foundation of independence is the courage to remain engaged with life on your terms. This means maintaining passion, whether through romance or other pursuits that genuinely excite you. It means diversifying your social circle across age groups to prevent the echo chamber of age-related limitations. It means insisting on purpose and contribution over mere leisure. It means defending your agency in financial matters while accepting appropriate safeguards. Most of all, it means developing the emotional strength to occasionally disappoint those who love you most. Independence in our later years isn't something we maintain. It's something we keep choosing day after day, often against significant resistance. The question isn't whether you'll face this resistance, you will. The question is whether you'll develop the tools to push back against it with love, clarity, and unwavering commitment to your own fully lived life. If this video resonated with you, please share it with someone who might be struggling with aging. Independence, whether it's yourself, a parent, or a friend, the conversation it starts might be exactly what they need. Leave a comment below sharing one way you're maintaining your passion for life as you age, or how you're supporting an older loved one in maintaining theirs. Your story might be the inspiration someone else needs today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our weekly videos on aging with dignity, purpose, and yes, passion. Next week, I'll be sharing the specific conversations I had with my doctor before international travel and how to advocate for yourself in medical settings. Thank you for your courage in considering a different approach to aging. Remember, independence begins with refusing to surrender your joy.